A brand new RV resort is opening in July, just outside of the Olympic National Park. We chat with the owners in this tell all episode. Welcome to RV Out West. I'm your host, Brooks. My family of four's base camp is located in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and our RV adventures radiate out from there. Please grab a mug of coffee and join us as we discuss RVing around the American West. From sweet camping spots, gear and equipment, to tips and tricks, we've got you covered. We are RV Out West. Before we begin, I just want to give a huge thank you to all of you who tune in and listen every week. This is our 150th episode. Putting together an episode is a lot of work and is something that I really enjoy doing. I love to share my passion for the Pacific Northwest and for RVing with each of you. So raise your mug of coffee and cheers. I really do appreciate you joining me on this journey each week. Now, on to the episode. The Olympic Peninsula is one of the most revered and scenic destinations in the Pacific Northwest. For those of us lucky enough to live here in the upper left corner of the U.S., perhaps we don't visit it as much because it is so close. For many who look to RV here, this area is often on a lot of people's bucket lists, and for good reason. This is a destination area that is so worthy of your time. New this year is a brand new RV resort opening in early July 2025. And this flagship resort is looking to shake up the industry by doing things a little bit differently, all with the idea of making the entire experience seamless. They don't want to stand between you and your adventures, even if that's you just sitting in your camp chair in your site reading a book, or if you're heading out for an early morning hike in the famed Olympic National Park. This is RV at Olympics. Joining us today are Mike and Joe, two of the owners, and we chat about their vision of the resort and what you can expect during your visit and what really just sets them apart from other RV resorts in the area. Mike and Joe, thank you for joining us here on RV Out West.
Yeah, likewise, Brooks. It's great to be on your show, and thanks for reaching out. We're excited to participate.
Yeah, well, let's kind of start with an introduction, maybe from each of you, just kind of bare bones basic, kind of tell me a little bit just about yourselves.
Thanks for having us on, Brooks. Yeah, a little bit about myself. I grew up in Denver, Colorado, spent most of my life here. And so I've always kind of been an outdoors type person. I played hockey growing up until about college. So I never really got into the skiing as much just because of that. Didn't want to get hurt. But yeah, I spent a lot of time in the outdoors. My aunt and uncle have lived in Parachute, Colorado for a lot of my life, and they are big RVers. They do a lot of the BLM, so not as much the RV parks, but so got to spend a lot of time around them with that school, and got a minor in real estate, and so have been in that for most of my professional career, the last 10 years or so, and connected with Mike about a year and a half ago now, and so that's kind of when we connected and have been working on this strategy. Oldest of five kids, don't have any yet myself, but Mike is preparing me other conversations and stuff. So 2 dogs, fiance, and live now in Lafayette, Colorado, outside of Boulder.
How about you, Mike?
Born and raised right outside of Philadelphia, not in Philadelphia, but in the suburbs. Since I got out of high school, my initial dream was to become a traveling musician. Spent about 11 years playing music in a band. And during that time, always, I grew up camping, always been outdoors. I bring my kids. We're actually out in Las Vegas right now because we were just out in Death Valley. So I have 2 kids and a wife, and we were out here, and I'm getting my kids climbing on rocks and, all kinds of stuff right now. So it's been great. I call it a failed music career, but still playing all the time. I got into the commercial real estate space because I was into construction. I was working construction during my time playing music.
Joe, you had mentioned you're RVing with your aunt and uncle on BLM land. Mike, do you have any prior RVing experience or anything like that?
So I have a ton of camping experience. We rented an RV twice out here in Vegas, actually, when I brought the kids. First we did Zion, then we did Bryce Canyon. but not full-time RVers. So it's interesting that we kind of fell into this.
I'm not a full-timer. I'm as often as I can, so,
Awesome. And
yeah,
you own Brooks? I'm sure
oh,
you
yeah,
own your. Yeah.
yeah. Have either of you spent much time out here in the Pacific Northwest? And if so, tell me a little bit about some of your adventures and travels here in the PNW.
Yeah, I would love to do more. I've been listening to your podcast, Brooks, and it sounds like you've got all the secrets. But I mean, my experience is really my brother lived out there for a number of years, so I visited him once or twice in Seattle. And then I've obviously been to our site a few times now, and so traveling around there, went crossing a lake and some other spots. But I'm kind of a newbie, to be honest.
Likewise, I've been out there a handful more times than Joe, I would say, and I've done a bit of hiking. Definitely my favorite area is like Salt Creek and that whole little niche up there. That's the most beautiful. That, and I've hiked up Storm King a handful of times already. It's pretty much every time we go out. So whenever I go out, it's probably 3 or 4 days. I'll spend an extra day just doing something new. So I've been to like all the major hot spots, Heartbeat Ridge, Soldat. Obviously Salt Creek is probably my number one, that whole area and all that. I love that little nook and cranny of it. And we spent a little bit of time, Joe, and I've actually moved down like the hooking out. Once we got oysters at if you're getting the name, it's like Hana Hana, I think. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Hana Hana, that's a great spot. But yeah, I mean, we're excited to get out there more. We haven't been there enough, I would say. But to go from, and if you're familiar, Brooks, the Pocono Mountains to what you see out in the Olympics.
No disrespect to the Poconos, but they're hills.
They are.
They're hills.
It's funny you mention that because I think I was probably, when I started camping, it was in the Poconos, and I was probably like 12. And the reason I got so addicted to camping was because I had never seen, and I'm doing quotation marks, mountains, right?
Right.
And so you went up to the Poconos, and it was like the middle of the summer, and it's like these lush green, I would call them hills today, but it was just incredible. Like, I could not believe the mountains of the Poconos from where I'm from, right? And so I was like, we rented a cabin the first time, and then every year we go multiple times, right? And that was like, my friends' parents would take us, and then every year we just start going. And then I was about mid-20s, I was saying, I just did my first like cross country. It's just like I got in my car. Actually, long story, I quit my job. I had like very little money in the bank. I just got in the car and I just started driving. No plans to go anywhere. And then, driving across the plains of Nebraska for hours on end.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, like the Rockies show up, and it's just like
and they're towering. And they're towering. Yeah.
Towering. And so for me, it's like I don't know if you ever heard like the old, when they find like senior Buddhist monks, or it's like the next Dalai Lama or something. I might be probably messing the story up, but they put them in a dark cave forever. And so that, like, the first time when they see the world, it's like they are just so in awe of everything. That's kind of how I felt going out to the West Coast and finally seeing like what real mountains are, So that infatuated me, right? And then I was always like, you have to have a job, you have to make a living. And if there was a way to marry that passion and that excitement and like being able to go and be immersed in that beauty with like work, dream come true. And so that kind of spawned, this opportunity. So you do a lot of cross-country traveling now in your RV, or are you mainly local around the Pacific Northwest, or like what is?
I'm mostly local around the Pacific Northwest. When we were in the throes of the pandemic, my wife, her dad passed away right at the beginning of the pandemic, so she wasn't able to kind of go out to help her sisters do the whole shutting down the estate and stuff. And then when we all collectively as a population realized what was going on a little bit better, we did take our RV and we drove out to Chester County and went and met up with family and did so we did 5 weeks on the road, but I've driven coast to coast 7 different times now. I've been to all 50 states.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
There
So
you go.
yeah, that whole wanderlust thing is legit. So
Yes.
like dragging my toilet with me now in a bed. So, Well, let's kind of dig into a little bit. I'm really curious about your origin story and what inspired you guys to decide you wanted to open up an RV campground? Like, was there like a light bulb moment, this aha, where you're like, hey, we got to do this? Kind of, what's the story there?
Yeah, there was. As I mentioned or alluded to earlier, our partner John was out living in Port Angeles at the time. Long story, but they were working on the project, and it was originally supposed to be like a manufactured housing community. The folks that owned it ended up wanting to sell it, and they had mentioned it to John. John had reached out to me, and we started talking about this property as it is. The kicker to that was that it was in such a beautiful location, and this was sort of an entryway into something that we had been thinking about for a long time. There was not nearly enough supply of RV parks, of good quality RV parks anywhere, and especially in the Olympic Peninsula. And so we realized there wasn't really a good park for people to come that wanted to visit the park and leave, like for transient folks, right? And so that really was it. I mean, the land came to us as an opportunity, and we went out there and just did like a ton of research, found that there was really not a good supply, not enough supply for people that wanted to come visit a major bucket list national park. So the location was great. It's 6 miles from, the Olympic National Park Visitor Center. So, we just decided, let's go for it. Now, we didn't have all the capital or the money ready to build, but we did have enough to buy the land. So we closed on the land. And then it took us probably 2 years to finish the permitting and entitlements. And we went out and begged for dollars, Joe and I, for like 2 years to get everybody on board. We got a bunch of friends and family together. And so really it's like us and I would say 6 other, one family member, and then the rest are just friends of ours that just went in together to get this thing going. And so John actually lives on an RV. He actually lives on site as he's managing the project out there in his RV with his wife Eloise. And yeah, that's just the origin story. So it's been great. We're having fun.
That's really exciting, and I'm really kind of curious now. What's kind of the vibe or experience that you're hoping campers have when they come and stay at RV at Olympics?
Yes, great question. So our motto, we call it seamless journeys, no compromise. That's the RV at motto. And what we're not going to do is overly amenitize everything. There's not going to be a restaurant or anything like that, but we're going to give you everything you need so that you can have a great base camp to then go out and explore Olympic National Park. So, we'll have probably, I would say 30% paved sites, the rest gravel, 50 amp hookups. We'll have a dog park. We'll have a dog wash station. We have a bathhouse. We actually lucked out and have fiber optic Wi-Fi that's coming right into the site. So we'll have blazing fast internet speed. Yeah. So we like to brag. We're the only RV park with fiber optic on site. So
that is definitely something to brag about for sure. RV parks are not known for having any sort of connectivity.
Yeah. So, that's what, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask Brooks, I was hoping this would come up because I'm curious, from all your experiences, what you've found RVers really care about, like
number one, level sites. I really need a level site. I prefer if it's paved just because then I'm not tracking that gravel into my trailer, but that's not a deal breaker for me, but making sure that site is as level as you can get it. Right. When I pull in, if I'm having to adjust 2 inches left and right, kind of driver's side, just becomes a bit of a pain in the butt. I'm no longer a digital nomad. I don't work remotely anymore, but having that fiber optic would mean, for people who are hybrid or are able to work remote, not that they could live there, but then the benefit for me and all of that when I could was that I would be able to extend my stay. So, my wife works for a school district. And so in the summers when my kids and my wife are out on summer break and I still had to work, well, hey, let's go to the national park. But instead of schlepping the trailer out there for a weekend and dealing with the ferry boats, let's go for the week. And yeah, I'll take 2 days off from work. I'll work the other 3 days from the trailer. And now we can do a week out there And, after I get off of work, we could go, explore Salt Creek or go to if you have not done with your kids, Mike, the Olympic game farm in Squid.
You done it.
It's wild. It is wild.
Brooks, I'll send you a video. I don't know if it'll, and maybe a couple photos. I don't know if it'll make it in, but we had Mike and I went, and then I think Mike, you went with your kids too, right? But our experience was hilarious and amazing.
Yeah. You feed them, and then they're like slobbering all over your passenger. Oh my gosh, it's easy. It's amazing.
The funnest part is when there's cars in front of us, and this is distinctly Joe. We had a big bison on the side of the car, and a car in front of us stopped, and this bison just like shoved its head into the window, and Joe, and I have it on video, so just like slammed up against his car, freaking out. It's back to seat.
It wants bread. Exactly.
Yep. No, I mean, so to be able to maybe I can't go do a hike after work, but hey, we could go do the game farm, or, if it's lavender season and we want to go out for the lavender festival in Squim, that's something I could, so those kind of things are, those are kind of the things.
So level sites, fast internet. I've also seen clean bathrooms as like a very important thing. So our bathrooms will be highly focusing on that. That's sort of a minimum. Will be included. I want to brag about this one too. We are putting in what I would call beastly playground. Something that's just, it's awesome. I want to say the area for it's 43 feet by 53 feet. It's like mountain and tree themed. Cool. And and it's funny because I just assumed that would be standard protocol for like what you should have. Like, I feel like Olympic National Park is a very family friendly location. A lot of people want to bring their kids there. And, Joe and I were just out at Zion looking at another project that we're under contract that hopefully we'll be able to close on it. But we were at Zion checking out all the comp sets and looking at the playgrounds, and they were like tiny compared to what we're putting in, and the kids were all over it. So we were a little bit like, smart. Did we overspend on this thing? But we're excited about it. So it's going to be a not good playground.
Smart.
And let's say we'll have community fire pits. TBD, we had a running trail pegged out around the site, but due to some like approval stuff and getting things through, that may or may not be there. We're going to try our best to get that back in, but it's really cool. We had, it's almost 9 acres. So we're trying to get like a little running trail that could go around the site, which is cool. Those are really the major amenities that we'll have on site.
Let me ask you this then, kind of what's been some of the biggest challenges that the two of you have faced trying to get this whole RV campground off the ground, kind of from idea to opening day? What's been kind of your biggest thorn?
There's been many thorns. There's been many challenges. I would think that the most surprising challenge we had is we are the proud owner of the largest septic system in Clallam County. And with that comes a mountain of just approval issues that have spun up. So the septic system, believe it or not, gave us probably our biggest challenge during development, which is something that you think would just be an administrative thing. You submit it, you get it through. We put it through the process, and, the county health department, and rightfully so, had said, this is like the largest septic system we have here. And we want to make sure that this will not have any issues with the local environment, that there's not, your leach fields are adequate. And so rightfully so, they're like, we want a second pair of eyes on this. And so it was a surprise to us, but we ended up having to get a larger study. We got the state health department involved, and it delayed us almost a year. We had to stop sort of raising funds and everything like that. And so that was a challenge. But again, it was a challenge that was the right thing to do from the county perspective. I think that all in all, it was a good call on their part to make sure that this was going to go right. So, that, and, honestly, on the construction side, I'd say it's been pretty smooth overall.
Okay.
The other side is getting people to show up to your park and getting management in place and doing all that. And being a brand new park, we don't have pictures of our sites. We don't have reviews on Google or RV Life or The Dirt or anywhere else yet. So that is an interesting uphill battle to face, is getting people to book in a park that's not yet open. To do that, I think just the nature of our park itself is something that's not really being offered there. So we're slowly starting to see that being overturned. We're starting to get a lot more bookings now.
Do you have any funny or unexpected stories from the construction process?
This is a lesson learned where we had somebody show up to the site ready to go. Okay, so we have our site announced. Our site's live on the website, rvatolympic.com. And you can't book. We had a date set to book, which is July 10th, which is the American. And somebody just showed up to the site, like fully ready to hook up their RV and spend a week there. And like he goes there and it's nothing but like a dirt site, right? Like everybody's working, there's construction, and he calls and just leaves this. I forget, Joe, maybe you could tell him, you may have talked to him, or maybe you left a message.
Talk to him, yeah. No, I know what you're talking about.
So Joe, I'll kick it to you. It's a lesson learned, by the way. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. So he drove a couple hours thinking that he would just roll in and, can make his reservation at the door. And so if you go to our site now, rv@olympic.com, you'll see a little red banner saying we open this summer to kind of
discourage random.
Yeah.
No, that's funny. You know what we didn't talk about, actually? I'm really curious. You said, you got 50 amps, some paved, some gravel, but you didn't give me a total. What's your total site count on your 9 acres?
We are 98. We are 98 sites. It's 8 partial hookups, and that's due to our septic system. And then I would say, Joe, how many are paved? So some of that we have like luxury, premium, full hookup, standard, and then basic. So some will have like Adirondack chairs around the fire pit with a picnic table. Others will just have the fire pit.
As we kind of start to ramp up, what kind of vision do you guys have for RV at Olympics, say 5 years from now? Kind of what are the futuristic? I know you're so focused in the weeds right now to hit your July 10th deadline, but kind of what's the vision for the park for the future?
Good question. My vision is that we have a park that is kind of like our vision today of like seamless journeys, no compromises. So people come there, they know what they're going to get from RV at Olympic or any of the other RV at properties. And they know they're going to have a really pleasant stay with management and our team. I've found that I've been handling the phones up until today, and I found just that the community itself has been so welcoming, and RVers are really good people. I just hope that we can deliver a really A+ experience to anyone who comes through the door. Mike and I are part of the community too, and so I hope we can stay close to it, and then it's just humming along.
I would add that part of our seamless journeys, no compromises, is to emphasize the seamless without going away from any of the traditional hospitality feel that you would expect, right? So one of the amenities I wanted to mention that we didn't talk about, that's actually a key to what we're doing. We have a cashierless store. So at any time, day or night, you need something, you can go in there and get whatever you need. You walk in, you scan your phone or your credit card or whatever, you walk in, you walk out, whatever you want at any time. But we also have on-site management that can help with anything. And so some of the things we're hoping to do is we're going to have an RV at Olympic app, for example, that's already underway. It'll probably come out, I would say, next year, where like if you're signed up with us, you get in, within a mile of the park, or maybe you're down the road. We haven't exactly geo-fenced the area yet. It'll automatically check you in. It'll ping you with the site that you're at, and it'll show up a map. It'll get you right to your site. And that's just seamless check-ins. Our goal is to get you out there. We're not going to have a restaurant. We're not going to do any of that stuff. Just getting you the basic necessity of what you need and giving you a great accommodation.
Well, hey, look, tell me, where can people go and find you guys online, follow along on your socials? Kind of where can they go and learn more and find more and do all of that?
Yeah, I think the easiest place is our website, rvatolympic.com, rvatolympic.com. And then at the bottom there, we're on Facebook and Instagram as well. So Instagram is RV Olympic, and I believe Facebook is something similar. And then contact at rvatolympic.com, contact at rv@olympic.com. That's an email where you can always reach us as well.
Well, Joe, Mike, thank you guys so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. And it's been absolutely very insightful, and I've really enjoyed talking with you guys.
Likewise, thanks, Brooks, and hopefully we'll see you at the park.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. Brooks, awesome. Thank you so much.
If you were looking to come visit this area of the Pacific Northwest, I'd also recommend that you go back and listen to episode 108, Destinations, the Pacific Northwest Rain Shadow. In that special destination episode, I share about things that you can do in the area, as well as why it is even called the Rain Shadow. Spoiler alert, this area receives the least amount of rain in Washington state, but you can find out why in this episode. So please go back and listen to episode 108, Destination, the Pacific Northwest Rain Shadow. Thank you again for listening to RV Out West. I sincerely appreciate it. If you liked this episode, please share it with your family and friends. I'd also like to invite you to follow RV Out West on Instagram and Facebook, where you can join in on the conversation. Next week's episode is all about the Pacific Northwest natural wonders. Sure, there's Mount Rainier and the Olympics, but I'm going to highlight perhaps some of the lesser known natural wonders that should command just as much attention. Be sure to tune in next week to hear all about these beautiful places. Thanks so much for listening to RV Out West. Join us again next week. Please like and subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you choose to get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. I sure would appreciate it if you left a rating or a review of the show. Special thanks to Scott Holmes Music for providing us the intro song, We Are One. RV Out West can be found on Instagram and Facebook, where you can interact with us and follow along on our RV adventures around the Pacific Northwest. So get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.